Okay, I want to thank you all for coming and for signing up. I know it wasn't necessarily an option, but I'm glad you're here. However, we are recording it because for those who can't come, we have some providers. We're going to try to get it online for people as well. We get, some staff turnover. We can't offer it live as often as we would like to, so we're going to continue to try to work on the online process as well. Anytime I go to learn something new, it's usually through online, so it's super helpful to have that resource if we need it. So, okay. Did everyone get that website?
I don't think the contractors can open that link.
They can't yet.
They can't, okay.
Oh, you mean the ones that are here?
Yeah, I get it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Bear with me one sec. Okay, contractors, now you should be able to access it. All right. Okay, if you haven't gotten the link yet, you can take a quick picture of it with an iPad or a phone so you have it, so I can move on. Okay, everybody good? All right, so I wanted to start off with who we are. This is your Assistive Technology Department as it stands today. Tammy Bertel, it's in the back. I'm Julie Adenolfi. Tammy, you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
My background is special education. I've been a special education teacher more than 15 years. I have done everything from early intervention through transition, age 21. And when I was in the classroom, my big focus was AET, and most of you know I'm a big tech head. You come to me for all those tech issues. And I've been in AET now 4-ish years.
4-ish. Officially, yeah.
Yeah, officially. Was doing it a long time before that as well. And I primarily do early intervention as well as the larger county-wide trainings, the district-wide trainings to support all of those larger areas as well as support our lending library. So I'm those bigger, larger areas.
Okay, and I'm Julie Adenolfi. This is my 28th year in the working world. About 15, 16 was as an SLP for mostly school age, but I've worked with 3 through 21 as well. I've been doing the AT thing only for about 10 to 12-ish years. Loving it. I've been doing AT my whole career because I had a lot of kids with devices, even my first caseload. So another tech head, my kids call me a professional problem solver. That's what we do in our family. So and everybody related to our family, computer problem, call Julie, it's how it works. But Tammy's in charge of like the lending library, open houses, big stuff, early intervention, consulting, things like that. I'm in charge of doing SETT meetings in the districts, 4 districts, school-age kids, and I also do some non-public. That's mostly what I do, and then there's I am also there for open houses. Tammy has a few open house days for just you guys that I don't necessarily attend if I'm out at meetings, but I'll be there.
I have a sheet. Please don't leave. I just need to go to Kathy and get them.
Okay. For the dates?
Correct.
Okay. So we have on open house days, you're welcome to come in, ask questions, problem solve, just work in the ATRC, see what we've got. Everything is out. It's on the 4th floor. And we have a lot of tools that are out, but if you just need to problem solve about any of your kids or have questions, you can either email us your problems to solve or to help solve, or come during those open house days. Those are free and open hours. Aside from open house days, we usually ask you to make an appointment because we're both in and out of the office all the time. So we're not available like, if you say I need a loaner this afternoon, it's not going to happen because we're out of the office. Tammy was in a training all day yesterday, so any requests that came in weren't looked at till today. So, and sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks to get loaners. So you kind of need to make an appointment if it's not an open house day. And that's just email us, let us know you want to see us and when's good, and we can work that out. And during the time that I'm not out in the districts, I am available in the office. We're also both trying this virtual office hours this year, so we have a link on our signature on our email, and I'll also post what hours. We have to actually have that link open when we have our virtual hours, but I'm going to post those, whatever those hours are, on my signature as well. So you can just click in and say, hey, and it's a video thing if you want it to be, or it doesn't have to be. But it's sometimes kind of nice to talk face-to-face even if you're virtual. So it's a little scary with the lighting in our office. You get all my forehead and that's it. But, it's really fun. But, it's just nice to have a face-to-face. I've also FaceTimed with people. It's kind of funny because they just kind of call me on the phone. I'll give you my cell phone number sometimes if I need to. And they'll go, look, this is what's happening. And they'll show me a kid's device. This is what's happening. And this is what it looks like in here. So I get to see, and it can be live. So even if I can't physically be there. So it's nice. Tammy and I will be covering a lot of your consulting. But it's changed a little bit in the last year. Last year you had Kelsey Sprinkle and Joanne Van Horn as your AT consultants in EI. Now that we've gone regional, the plan is for you to all be trained. We're not expecting you to do anything not being trained to do it, but we're trying to build capacity for assistive technology, especially at the preschool level. It's not overly intense once you've gotten trained, but we want everybody's hands in it, everyone's hands in it, and then you can work with each other in your region to hone your skills a little bit better. But there's no reason everybody in here can't run a SETT meeting and implement. So it's more what to say in the meeting, what to recommend, and we're going to help you with that. Okay, we're going to help you learn what your resources are because technology changes by the day. We all know that. So our plan is to show you how it works as far as the SETT process goes, and what technology to implement, and then how to do it. So we are going to teach you in the next 4 weeks how to do this. And then we will be available for consultation, especially on the what. What tools do we do if we're looking to do all these tasks? So we can help you hone in on that. So it's not going to be as scary as it is today in 4 weeks. You'll be fine in 4 weeks, once we've covered everything. So I feel good about it. I mean, I know a lot of you have already done SETT meetings, either sat in on them or run them yourselves. Just use each other, help each other. And it doesn't have to be huge and difficult. Once you've done it a few times, you get the hang of it, and it's not nearly as scary as it was the first time. So, and we're going to try to simplify the process as much as possible for you. The reason you don't have handouts is because we want everything to start to be digital. Okay? We want you to email the forms to the parents. We want you to have it on your computer so you can pull it up whenever you want to. So it's kind of important to make it digital, so we're going to access everything digitally together today. So we'll practice that. So the overall plan for 4 weeks is, today is what is AT and how to do a SETT. Week 2 is apps, because that comes up all the time. So that was one of our earlier things we wanted to cover. How do you pick which apps are out there, and how do you pick? Week 3 is about implementation. What's this look like in my classroom? How do I do this? It's so awkward. I don't know what to do with this. And week 4 is the other AAC devices that are not iPad apps. And we'll kind of go into why iPad apps reign over everything else. But there are reasons for other devices, and we do want to talk about those as well. But I would say it was 70% iPad last year. So, we're going to cover what was the majority first and get you as much training as we can as early as we can. So, and that's why 4 weeks in a row, almost in a row, 4 out of 5 weeks, we just wanted to get it to you, get you the information so you're good for the rest of the year, or then you know what questions to ask. Okay? So that's our plan. Your plan then is to hold SETTs for your students that need it by the end of October. So your last training is October 5th. That gives you like 3 weeks to get all those SETT meetings in. Again, it shouldn't be this big, intense thing. So it should not be a problem to get those done. And then consult with us as needed on open house days or by appointment. We are in and out of the office, so keep that in mind. All right. So I'm first going to talk about acronyms, because everybody throws acronyms at you all the time. What the heck does that mean? So I'm going to go through some of the ones that you might hear a lot. AT is Assistive Technology. AAC, Augmentative and Alternative Communication. All right, these are my two that drive me crazy. PECS is a system, Picture Exchange Communication System. It's a protocol. It's a cookbook for a way to do a certain kind of communication where you're literally exchanging to get something. You're doing an actual exchange, and it is a protocol, and it is a prescribed protocol, PECS. That's the only time you should ever be using that acronym is when you're actually doing the PECS system. Some kids are using the PECS system. They are going through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. You know, they're going through that. So that is PECS. If you're not actually in a PECS protocol, then you're using picture symbols, picture communication symbols. All right, PCS is a certain company's, board makers, picture symbols. But any kind of picture symbol system is what you're using if you're not using PECS, the actual picture exchange communication system. Okay? So PECS is Picture Exchange Communication System. It is the system. And if you're in the protocol, you are using PECS. Otherwise, you're using picture symbols. Okay? Lots of people will call picture symbols PECS all the time. They are not synonymous. They're not. So if you're, when in doubt, use picture symbols. Say I'm using picture symbols, not I'm using PECS. P2Go is pro loco to go. Oh, Pranky Romic Company is one of the companies that makes devices that support LAMP, or it's like the old min speak, but you might see PRC once in a while. P2Go is pro loco to go. That's an AAC app. SETT is what we're doing today, Student Environment Tasks and Tools. That's what it stands for, and I'll go over that again. UDL is Universal Design for Learning. It means that classroom lessons are set up to be accessible to all people from the start, technologically, and overall setup-wise, so that you don't have to retrofit anything to anyone who's using technology. And PDF, you all use PDFs. It stands for Portable Document Format. It's like when you have to use Adobe Reader to open something, it's in a PDF format. Questions about those? All right, IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Act. FAPE, Free Appropriate Public Education. JPEG, it stands for a Joint Photographic Experts Group, but it's a picture file, a photograph on your computer. GIF is also an image file, like a picture. TIFF, again, is JPEG, GIF, and TIFF are picture files. PCT or PICT is a Mac picture file. So anytime you see .gif, .tiff, .pct, those are all picture files. Okay? MP3, MPEG, MP4, and .mov, they're all movie formats or video formats. Okay? So any of those that you see with the M at the beginning are movie formats or video formats. Okay? So that's just a lot of the acronyms that are typically thrown at you. All right. Anytime we do any kind of training on assistive technology, I'm going to bring up the definition. This is the IDEA definition, and it's been floating around forever, unchanged. So I should be able to recite this off the top of my head. I can get about halfway through it. So, but it's an assistive technology device. So the actual device is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially, off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to maintain or improve the functional capabilities of children with disabilities. This is what matters. It's used to maintain or improve their functional capabilities of kids with disabilities. So that's why it's assistive technology and not just regular technology. Okay? And then the other part of assistive technology is assistive technology services. That's not just Tammy and I. That's what you guys are doing by putting assistive technology in place. So you're providing the service as well. So any service that directly assists a child with a disability in the selection, acquisition, or use of an assistive technology device. So part of the SETT is the service that you're providing to help a child attain assistive technology and use it. Okay? So this includes evaluation. And rather than doing an assistive technology evaluation in Montgomery County, we use the SETT process. It's considered to be best practice across the country. It's not like a one-shot evaluation. Somebody comes in, looks at the kid, does a little evaluation, and says, here, try this. I recommend this. And that's it. The SETT process is ongoing and flowing, and it ebbs and flows, and you need to adapt it and change it according to the kid's environments and everything else, and we're going to go through that. But so we use the SETT process instead of an evaluation. It also includes purchasing and providing technology, selecting, which is through the SETT process, designing, fitting, customizing, repairing, coordinating other therapies, and training. Okay, so that's all part of assistive technology services. And what is AAC? It is AAC, not ACC or ACA. It is AAC, Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And that's mostly what we're going to be talking about, except for maybe Trish and Carol. Still have your classroom? So the classrooms that are like physical support, vision support, that may need other forms of assistive technology, we're mostly talking about augmentative communication, augmentative and alternative communication. So in preschool. So in school age years, we also talk about academic access, but a large part of that is communicative when you're little. So you can learn your shapes, colors, numbers communicatively as well with the AAC system. So that's why we're really going to focus on that. Augmentative communication, it augments the speech that already exists. So we all know kids that are verbal that aren't really saying a lot. So this augments their speech and language. Alternative replaces. So if you don't have speech or language, it's an assistive technology device that is an alternative to speech. Okay? Almost all of our kids are going to use augmentative communication. There's no difference. It's all AAC. So I just wanted to let you know the difference between those two definitions. Okay. All right. So the trends. We don't always go with what's newest and best. We go with whatever the student needs. We sometimes can use things that are 30 years old. I still have some of those things in place. They're valid. They're great. They're simple. There's something to be said for simplicity. It's not the worst thing in the world. But right now, the big trends have come up, and because we had 70% iPads go out last year over all our loaners, it's because people want smaller, more portable, electronic. They want smart things, smart houses, smart devices. It's pretty helpful streamlining the background or the behind the scenes of what you're doing implementation-wise if it's smart and automatic. So smart, automatic, updated voices. And don't forget about backup systems, though. Even if we're going with one of the trendier items, they have to have some kind of backup system because you cannot always use electronics. What might be a time when you couldn't use an electronic device?
After it went swimming?
You mean after the person's at the pool and it shouldn't be there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Right? At the pool, that's one place you shouldn't use it. Where else? Where else is a bad place to have something electronic? Oh, come on, you guys. In the bathroom. Yeah, in the bathroom. I know some of you are guilty of phones in the bathroom, but you're also adults. So, I'm not saying they haven't been dropped in the toilet. I'm not even going to take a survey on how many people have dropped it in the toilet, but I haven't yet. Bathroom, pool, where else? Playground, sometimes. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the setup.
Sometimes on the bus, if they are prone to losing things.
Could be. Yeah, I have one kid that definitely needs a backup system on the bus, for sure. Why else? Where else? Has your phone ever shut off or not worked? Because of? Battery? Overheating? Or too cold? So extreme temperatures, extreme humidity. The beach is a terrible place for an electronic device.
It's hard to see the screen sometimes at the beach, too.
Correct.
So
Yeah, so funny story, with one of my older phones, I was getting my flip phone, so this was a really long time ago when I went to get a new phone. So when I went from my flip to my iPhone the first time, they took the battery off my phone and sand spilled out of it. Do you go to the beach? I go when I can. Yeah, so the beach is not friendly for phones or iPads or anything electronic. So we definitely want low-tech systems because if they don't have anything, then it's kind of like putting duct tape over their mouths when they're at the beach. You have nothing. So we definitely want to have something as a backup and have them familiar with it. Don't just put it in their backpack, but use it sometimes. So a combination of things is really good. But this is the trend, smaller, more portable. How many people have seen kids using iPad minis with either strap or handle in classes or on your caseload? Yeah, at least half. We go with minis because the kids are little. They're tiny. The iPad's tiny. We have to put a plea into Apple because we heard rumor that they may discontinue the minis because more phones are getting bigger, right? Yeah. So Tammy and I had a little panic attack last week, and we need to reach out to them because all those kids use minis right now. So it's and they're not buying phones for them, so it's going to be a full size or iPod, So anyway, but that's the trend, especially with Trish's kids, like with the kids with physical impairments. This is becoming more and more. It's easier to implement in your house. How many people have something smart in their house, like a smart TV, smart lights, smart thermostat? Yeah. So it's becoming commonplace. Well, it's great for kids who have special needs because then they can control it from their wheelchairs or from their beds, and it's easier. Some of us have older environmental control devices, but now it's commonplace. It's commonplace for anybody. You can go to Home Depot and buy stuff, and it's commercially available. So it's fantastic. The other thing that's been so nice is this automatic backups. You can now get systems to back up by themselves. So Proloquo to go, Touch Chat, you can get that in the background to back itself up, and you don't have to stress about it. So we'll be going over that some next week. All right. So I have a little story for you. I want to see that you just watch carefully and tell me what the story is about. Bear with me a second. There is no sound, so. Raise your hand if you understood that. Anyone? A bit. Who said that? Okay, thanks. All right, now, do it again. Give me a second. So I'm going to start it from where we started. Okay, now watch. Oh, here, I'll put it back. I know. How many people understood at that time? Okay. Was it because there were subtitles that time? Absolutely. Okay. I'm just trying to make a point. So, how many of you in your classrooms teach your kids to sign? Raise your hand. It's not, we've all done it. I think a lot of us have done it. And how many of you actually speak sign language? One. And it's Tammy. So, we're teaching kids a mode of communication that no one speaks. Let's wrap our heads around that for a second. We're teaching kids a mode of communication that no one speaks. Is that useful for them in the long run? Because this is where they would eventually be as signing communicators. I know we teach it to get by, but it makes more sense to teach them a mode that's going to be successful no matter what environment they're in, not just the deaf community. So, in order for communication to be successful, a communication message to get from me to you and for you to understand me, you have to have three things. You have to have a sender, you have to have a receiver, and you have to have a shared language. Okay? So sender and receiver is easy. We have those all over the place. Shared language is where the breakdown occurs. So if I teach this class, special ed majors at Westchester, and I always do a little experiment with them at the beginning of the semester. I do 20 signs, see how many. I have them fill out like a little Google form about what they think those signs are. It's signs like we use in the classroom. More, help, eat, drink, done, want, like, happy, sad. So it's all common signs to little kids, and no more than 20%. 20% was my highest, but that was one semester, and that's out of 25, 27 people. It's usually maybe 3 students a semester know. No one knows more than half, ever. Ever. No one's known more than half of those signs. So that's a problem because we're constantly teaching signs. Then I use those same words. So I don't say a word. I don't tell them what they mean. Then after all the signing is done, I show them picture symbols. No words, just picture symbols of those. Same words. And they fill out the form, what they think they mean. Some of them are a little more abstract than others, but we know some of the picture symbols are more abstract than others. So then I have them fill out the same form about those words. It increases dramatically. It's definitely more than 50% of the ones that they get. Same words, same common words that we use. Then I add the word to the picture. And 100% because they're reading the word, because it's a shared language. They're literate, right? So they're reading all of what it means. So it was truly telling to me. I just started it, and it's truly my own experiment. But I just wanted to see because, we're constantly fighting battles with ABA, and, they say, you always have your hands with you. Why can't you sign? How many people have experienced that? Heard that about ABA types? Yes, you do always have your hands with you. But if it's not a shared language, they're not going to be successful with communication. We need to give them communication that everybody understands so that they can communicate with the substitute on the bus, and be familiar with using that mode of communication that everybody understands. So I had a little girl actually she was upper elementary school, and we were on a field trip to McDonald's, and she had just one of the personal talkers. It's a little green square switch, a single switch with her lunch order on it, and it had a picture of a Happy Meal and a soda on the front. And she went up and she activated it, and it said, I'd like a Happy Meal, please, and a medium Coke, whatever it said. And did the guy understand her? Absolutely he did. And he wanted to hear it again. That's so cool. So, but had she gone up and done this, or done this for happy, would he have understood her? Unlikely. How many of you have seen the stories where Santa Claus learned sign language? It's so sweet when Santa Clauses learn sign language, because then they can talk to the kids who are deaf and in a deaf community and are signing. It's sad to me that Santa has to learn a new language too. It's not sad to me that he learns a new language. It's sad that that child can only communicate with him if he learns her language. If she had pictures, she could communicate whatever she wanted to, and he would understand. So pictures are really crucial for kids to communicate successfully. Some people will say, well, we're just teaching them their preschool. They're only 3. Why can't we just use sign now? Because we want to eventually build them to be independent communicators. And by wasting time teaching a mode that other people don't speak, there's one right here. Raise your hand if there's an empty seat next to you. There you go. Thanks. By taking the time to teach them a language that people don't speak, makes them delayed even more. The whole idea of early intervention is for them to catch up, right? Because how many people have dismissed kids out of early intervention that went to regular ed? It happens, right? It totally happens. It's so exciting. Because of you, because of your interventions, they're now able to be on grade level or close to it. So we want to start them as early as we can in a mode that's going to make them independent communicators. Sometimes that's no tech, sometimes it's low tech, sometimes it's high tech. We want to get them communicating with the language that they understand and everybody around them understands, including grandma. There's one little story about that. Little girl went to see grandma. She signs at school, so she's going like this, 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 and Grandma's going, hi, honey, hi, honey, hi, honey, and she pees her pants. Well, this works at school, right? What's it mean? It's the sign for bathroom, right, or toilet. Grandma doesn't know that. They don't share the same language. It's not a shared language.
We just had an IEP meeting, and the mom said, what does this mean? And we're like, more. And she's like, I thought it meant like he wanted to get into a fight. He was ready to get.
So it's not, because that's a gesture, right? Yeah. Look at him. All he wanted was more. He might fight you if you don't give it to him. But still, gestures are totally fine, by the way. With my little sign language experiment, the one was this, right? Well, it's also a gesture across the room. Want to go for a drink after class, right? So there's gestures that are totally fine. But we want to give them language and let their language grow and build their sentences and say more than just nouns. So we can only do that through a system that's shared language. Go ahead.
So, my student who actually did end up taking her AAC swimming, mom is looking for that backup system.
Yeah.
And she likes the idea of signs as a backup for family because she hates the picture-based ones because they always get lost. So how do you feel about signs as a backup then? I mean, obviously, if we've got somebody who's got a picture system that is iPad-based and that is their primary, if they've got a couple of communicators who do understand their signs, is that enough to kind of be that fallback? Or, I mean, it's not ideal, but...
Can they use it as part of their system? They can use it as part of their system. Do you continue to increase the sign vocab? No, because as you get older, now again, I'm going to go back to you guys have preschoolers, so their communicative circle is little. Mm-hmm. Family, a few friends, a few family members, so it's small. As soon as you're getting into elementary school, how many kids are in a kindergarten class? Like 20 some, right? And they don't sign. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to definitely use that as a primary mode. And we don't want to let families fall back on that because they have to understand that while it works for them, it doesn't work for anybody else, anyone else, generally speaking. And, we should look up what the incidence or prevalence of people who understand sign language in the U.S. I'm sure it's less than 10%.
It's a very small number.
Yeah.
Because I know sign language only because I was very interested in it when I was in an early intervention to give students a very small way of communicating prior to us having the access to speech generating devices. So back in the day, when I was an itinerant teacher, that's what I had an interest in. And that's why I ended up going to Gallaudet and moving on from that, and why I have such a high repertoire of it. And back then, trying to find groups was extremely hard for me because I had to go to Doylestown on a Wednesday every other month to find a group who would occasionally meet. And eventually I met up with a woman who was deaf, and we would actually meet close to her house because that's the time she got off work.
So it's hard. It's hard to find. So, if you want to fall back on it, it's okay for a short, small, but we want to give them power of language. I'm sorry.
What can we do so that the student has access to their core vocabulary so it's safe? So if it's going swimming, how can we create core vocabulary so it's in a safe environment? There's lots of groups who showcase that they're creating it on these floats and they're creating it on different things so that it's there in appropriate environments. So it's just a quick core board on a Flutter kickboard, or it's on a large pretzel bin so that it will float in the pool. So
on the wall in the tub.
Yeah,
the wall, laminated on the wall in the tub.
It's laminated, or so that think outside the box at that location so that it's safe. It's laminated, but it also has access for that student.
So you can to a degree still fall back on it, but families will hang on to that. I have a 5th grader right now whose family insists on signing only with him. He's fluent in LAMP, words for life, and they will not use that with him. They sign only. In school, he uses AAC like crazy, but at home they insist on the sign language because it's what he knows best. Like, it's because that's all you do. He's really good at everything, at the other. So, Katie?
So would you have this conversation with people who work with like birth to 3? Because I feel like that is
Yeah, no. You know.
as far as the sign language, and I mean I know that's a way, like you said, getting started, but then for us as a preschool,
Then they're 3. Yeah.
we get these children and parents are, oh, they know like 200 signs, and we want to keep
Great. I don't.
this way. And, it would look different. Like the child would look different and communicate different if this is something that they push.
Absolutely. In a perfect world, we definitely would want to get it in their hands sooner. A lot of people will use it with infants who are typically developing before their speech develops, but their speech is developing right alongside of it. Unfortunately, you guys don't get them till they're 3. There's that window of time, SLPs, prior to 3, where you're immersed in language development, major language development, that if it was picture-based instead of sign-based, they'd be, and if they weren't going to be talking at 3, but how do you know that? That's kind of where we get stuck with kids that unless they have an obvious impairment early on, you may assume that they're going to start speaking with everyone else, and throwing a couple signs in there is fine. It's totally fine if it's a stepping stone, but then we get to 3, 4, 5, 6 years old and they still don't have a system. How many words have you developed by 5 years old? Thousands and thousands of words that you have access to. I don't know off the top of my head the number, but way beyond what we offer them in sign language. So, or even on AAC devices necessarily. So, we want to ramp that up a little bit. Anyway, I digress. Did somebody else have one other question? Was it you, Carol? Okay. All right. So, I'm going to show you a couple of IU resources, and then we're going to get into the SETT process. On our website, if you go to mciu.org and search assistive technology, our page pops up, and then you just click on read more to get there. So here's our website, MCIU, search assistive technology, and read more, and this is what you get. So first we have our regular open house dates. Tammy has the extras for EI open house dates that she'll get to you. Then you have a lot of other resources. We're going to try to bold some of these things a little bit better. This is general AT services that Tammy and I do. The SETT request form for districts to ask for me to come do a SETT. Same with these others. This is not you guys at the top. Yeah, none of this is you at the top. As we go down, we have the other items in our resource center. And what you can do here is, this is a biggie, lending library inventory items. If you click on lending library, that's where you go to borrow. Okay? And I'm going to get into specifics in a little bit. Here's our ATRC open house dates. Symbaloo is videos, instructional videos on some of these areas of assistive technology. So on AAC, we have, it's a grid that you click on, and you can watch any of the AAC-related videos. That's how Tammy and I learn new stuff. Oh, a new app is coming out. Well, we go to the video, and then we'll add the video to the Symbaloo. Okay? So that's how we learn about it, and then we play with it. You have to learn by doing as well. So then we have, so there's our videos in the middle, and then at the very bottom, we have our SETT paperwork. And shortly, we're going to download those. This is where you can get the SETT forms to fill out for the meetings. Okay? All right. So that's the resource page. All right. So at the resource page, you can download SETT forms, borrow tools, and watch videos. That's the main thing you can do. And I put the link to that the actual website on the bottom. Okay. That's not you. Oh, it's you. Oh, okay. Well, hello. Haven't we had enough of thunderstorms lately? Golly. All right. So right now, what I want you to do is go to our website, download and save a copy of the SETT forms onto your computer. We want a copy. What you're going to do, download the guiding questions as well. I want you to take a few minutes, download all those forms and save them as templates. Okay? Then we're going to save one and take notes on it. So I'm not handing out notes. You're going to take notes based on what we say. All right? And I'll do the same so I can pull up the same things you have. So I'll go on the website. So we'll take about 5 minutes to download each of the 5 forms. So questions to consider, set 1, set 01, set 02, set 03, and set 04. And then I will go through those with you. Okay? And if you don't know where to put it, you should make a set folder, but if you don't know where to put it at the moment, put it on your desktop and drag it somewhere later. Is 1 more minute enough time? Okay, all right. Did everyone sign in, by the way? Sign in. How many people did not sign in? Raise your hand. All right, we'll pass it around. Okay. You want to take a second too and put those all in a folder? That would be good.
She was the first one here, though.
Actually, I think Trish's on there too.
No, I did it.
So on my computer, I have a folder that is set, and in that folder I have set forms, which are my blanks, and then I also have a folder for each kid. So set Johnny, set Jimmy, do last names, but that way you can save theirs into their own folder, and then you know where to find it, and you're not like scrambling around for it. So if you get into, and you can also do that, and should maybe do it on your Google Drive. Then you have access to it no matter where you are, which is pretty helpful. It helps that we have OneDrive here, so it's, if you're saving it to the Microsoft 365, Office 365, you can also access that from anywhere. But if what I just said is Greek to you, you can save it in your Google Drive.
Who made these forms?
They're ancient. Before me.
They're not user-friendly.
No, they're not. And so it's been on my to-do list for a while, and we're trying to do a click-through. As you take notes, I'm going to show you why some of them haven't been. And, it's funny that you say that. Not funny, haha. But we've gone through several drafts of them, and the identification page is the worst one. I'm just going to, as far as the reformatting and all that stuff goes. So I'll make a point to work on that. We do have a publisher version of it that I can also post. We have publisher, but the people you send it to don't. So if you open it in Publisher and fill it out, you have to save it as a PDF, but you can save it as a PDF. It's just save as PDF and then send it out as a PDF, and they can open it fine. So that's tends to be what I do because you can tab through it. So the other ones are still Word documents, and it's mostly because of the way you fill it out. So I'll go through that with you when we do it. But I did take some of the lines out of the action plan and the framework, I believe. I hope that's the ones that we have up there. All right, so good question, Noah, and thank you, because it has been a biggie. Maybe I'll make that my goal this year. One of the many, but it's good to have goals, right? Good to have lots of goals. All right, so I'm going to go through what a SETT actually is. So SETT stands for Student, Environments, Tasks, and Tools. And it's a framework. It's a framework that we use. It was created by a lady named Joy Zabala in 1995. It's phenomenal, and it still works beautifully today because it's a framework that guides the IEP. And the most important thing is it's a team decision-making process. The team decides with guidance, but the team decides together. And that way you're all on the same team and you're all on the same page. Literally and figuratively, we're going to be on the same page. So the SETT results in an actual action plan. So you set out a plan about how we're going to go about this. Sometimes it's super simple, like simply written, and sometimes it's very detailed. But it sets up a plan for all of you so that you can, it's methodical, and it's helpful when you actually have to present data, which we all do. So with that action plan, then it's revisited and updated regularly as data is collected and tasks, team members, and environments change. How many people had a team change members? How many people did not have a team change members this year? Right? There's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of change. And it's therapists, and it's teachers, and it's assistants, and it's everybody else. Not usually parents. They're usually stay put. But as those teams change, those new team members have not been involved in the process, so they need to be pulled in and brought up to snuff on what's happening. All right. So it's a nice process. It's a flowing process, and it can be really helpful. And it doesn't have to be this daunting task that right now it might seem like. But it's not. It doesn't have to be. It's not like another IEP. It's not as intense as that. So when to have a SETT? He talks. Is his speech functional, and is it equal to his receptive language? And even if they have low receptive language, that's not always an indicator. If they have low receptive language, sometimes this can help that along as well. So the prerequisite to assistive technology in AAC is, are they breathing? That's it. You have to be breathing. Anybody can use assistive technology. All right? If the child needs a plan that involves any level of technology, no, low, mid, or high. If you're using visual symbols, if their speech is not developing at normal range, you want to have some kind of technology involved, whether it's no tech. I say technology, assistive technology, but that's also some no tech like the picture symbols. The SETT creates an action plan that results in data and is revisited. It's frequent at the beginning of the SETT process because you're going through trials. Once you've done trials and you've matched him up with a device that works for him, the features are put in the IEP, and then you visit once in a while to make sure everybody's on the same page with the action plan. So I say once every 6 months or so, or if the team changes. I think I wrote it here. Okay, so you meet as a team. So at the first SETT meeting, so the initial SETT meeting for this child, you meet as a team. It's not the whole IEP team, but it's anybody that's going to be using it for communication, so it could be the whole IEP team for that matter. Not usually PT and APE except with physical, but pretty much everybody else. Vision, hearing, speech, teachers, assistants if you can get them in there. But anything that you're implementing and that your staff is going to be, you're going to relay to them anyway. So you complete the first 3 pages, the identification page, the framework, and the action plan at that meeting. Okay? You're doing all 3 pages at the meeting. On the action plan, which we'll go over, you're going to leave the results column blank because that's you fill out after you've done the trials or after you've completed the action plan. Okay? When you do your action plan, give everyone a job. Everyone on the team should have a job, even if its parents are charging the iPad every night. Make everybody accountable so it's not SLP, 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 teacher, 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 teacher. Okay, it's not all your job. Everybody should have some kind of job on that. Set realistic timelines. Don't say I'm going to get a loaner by Friday, because Tammy might be out until next Friday. So you can't guarantee you're going to have a loaner by Friday. Always allow 2 weeks for loaners. From the day you fill out the form, allow for 2 weeks on your form. Then there's a period of training that needs to occur for the staff and customization of the device. So pick realistic timelines. Whatever timeline you think you can get it going, but be realistic about it. Now your loaners are only 2 months, so don't take the first month to customize the device, because then you only have it for 4 more weeks. I say that loosely because in preschool, in school age, we are loaning devices so that the district can decide what they're going to purchase for the student. In preschool, we are the purchasers. We are the LEA. So we're providing whatever the students need until they go to school age. Okay? So when we do that, your loaner initially may be for 2 months. Then we'll check in with you and say, hey, how's it going? If they need it, it turns into a long-term loan. Okay, so until they go out of school age. That said, there's a transition period there when they should have something that's their own that's going to schools. It's going with them to school age. So we like to go through purchase process or discuss with the district what the plan is for moving forward once they get to school. Because as soon as they stop EI, the device comes back to us. Our device comes back unless the district borrows it for 2 months while they get their things ready. We'll talk more about that too toward the end of our trainings. Also, besides setting realistic timelines, also set how the data is going to be collected. So you're going to decide what you're collecting data on, and then you're going to decide how you're going to collect it. A lot of times it already can fit into the data you collect. So if you're collecting speech and language data already, you may be able to do it, the device use along with that. You don't have to create all this new stuff and new data forms and everything else all the time. So there's ways to make it fit or tweak it. So sometimes it can be pretty seamless. And it's not this big daunting task either. It doesn't have to be. All right, so who's on the team? Like I said, sometimes PT and APE are not usually there, but the rest usually are involved. So it should be team members and parents who have direct interaction with the child and who will be working through the action plan. Now, all those people that are going to be helping with this action plan should be part of this team. Do not list us as team members, Tammy and I. We are your consultants, but we're not actively on your team, okay? So don't put our names on your form. If on the action plan you say, I'll consult with the IU-AT consultants, that's fine, but we're not part of your immediate team. We're not actively involved in that child's implementation. We're consulting with you. Your supervisor is a team member because, again, we're the LEA, they're the LEA representative, and they're going to be responsible, so they need to be kept in the loop, okay? Whether they attend the meetings or not, you don't have to have an LEA at the meeting. It's not an IEP meeting. It's a SETT meeting. So it can just be you and the parents and a couple team members that are there. But your supervisor needs to know and be in the loop, and they can choose if they want to come or not come. But they should always be invited, okay, and considered on the dates. Okay, so you have your SETT meeting. You do your action plan. Then we have what's called a reset or a follow-up SETT meeting. A few months later, you guys decide the time frame at the first meeting. You decide when you're going to meet for the second meeting. 2-3 months down the line, you meet, and you fill out 2 forms. You fill out the rest of the old action plan, and you make a new action plan. It's a quick meeting. It's usually a half hour at most. Okay? So you talk about the results of the one. Okay, now we have those results. What are we doing now? And at the beginning, it's all data trial or device trials. We're going to test this out. We're going to do this trial. The next meeting might be, okay, now we're going to expand it to other environments. We're going to collect data there. Then as you get further and further into the process, if you've decided and this is the right device for the student, then it just becomes an implementation action plan. But it's still an action plan. You still should have an action plan so the whole team is on the same page. So, and it's not just use device everywhere. That's not specific enough. You definitely need action plan items on there that are ones that you can carry through and collect data on, or at least speak to. Okay? Anytime the team changes or things on the framework change, so you fill out that framework the first time, and we're going to go through it. If information on that changes, like the kid had surgery, or now their seizures have really changed, or something big has changed, or the team has changed, or the location has changed, you do a whole initial set again. So you do the first 3 pages again. Okay. But most of the time, if the team is the same, all the players are the same, it's just a follow-up set, just to touch base and see where you are, make a new action plan moving forward. It doesn't have to be majorly involved. All right. So following the meeting that you have, you begin the action plan. To borrow a loaner, you visit the IU AT page, complete the request form, and upload your SETT paperwork. You have to do that before you can get a loaner. Okay, so you have your SETT meeting, upload your paperwork so Tammy can see, and request your loaner. You do it all in the same spot. So then you complete the action plan, and then you schedule a reset meeting. Okay. That's it in a nutshell. We're going to go through the forms, but any questions so far? Okay.
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer this or the supervisors, but there's been talk with like the itinerant teachers that the speech therapists who are not IU employees, if they have a kiddo who needs a device, that we're supposed to be doing the SETT meetings after this training. Is that true?
That the teachers are doing the SETT meetings?
No, like if there's a speech therapist on a case who's not an IU employee, like a contractor,
No.
they said that are we supposed to be giving devices because we don't know? If they have a contracted SLP?
So the contracted SLPs hopefully are being trained, are
I
going
don't know,
to
right
be
now,
trained.
my itinerant teacher told me that that they're waiting for me.
What's your role on the team?
Speed.
So they have been.
But I'm not on the
Case
team.
managers, are we making the decision? For it's not our student, but we're the case manager.
I don't know the answer to
Or
that.
not even the case
Or
manager.
like
Just
in
I had a case
in
manager
area
reach out
area.
to me
Oh,
about a
we're not
contractor who needed a SETT meeting in November.
Okay, I do.
Yeah, I did.
Am I supposed to be doing that stuff?
Yeah, that's what I got.
I know.
We'll get back to that one.
I can't possibly do that.
No,
if
we're
we
just
don't know
being
the
honest. We just work. There's a lot of moving parts to this, so we don't have a definite answer for you right now.
But if you don't know the child, so I don't know, I do SETT meetings for across the whole county. And I just gather some background information first. But so if the answer is yes, you are to do it, which you'll find out if that's the answer. But if that is the answer and you're supposed to have the meeting, you're going to gather some background information, whatever information you need to know. I can show you the form that I typically send out to the districts. It just gives me a little bit of kind of what we're looking at, but I also ask for a video of the kid communicating. Short snippet of a video or an observation. I know, time is of the essence, so, you can't always get out to observe. So send me a quick video just so I can see. And then the team is going to meet with you. It's not just you and the parent. It's not just you and the teacher. It is that contracted SLP, and the rest of the team should be at that meeting. Well, that's not me, but I'm just saying, don't worry about the fact that you don't know the kid so much as because you're just facilitating a meeting. You're facilitating a discussion. So
I wouldn't be in charge of setting up the entire.
nope, you delegate.
No, you're delegating what is occurring.
So-
Just like when Julie and I go in to do those sets, we are delegating what occurs. We are the facilitator of everything.
So we decide who does
we're
what
the
and when.
person, and we're the expert.
But we're not the ones setting up devices. We're not the ones training. I mean, sometimes we're giving resources for training, but you're not. That's not your responsibility.
And
Your
remember,
responsibility
the
is
Symbol
to
there for
facilitate.
resources.
And you'll have those resources after week 4. You'll be much more well versed in doing that. So, let's just say you did have time, not a full caseload, and you have to do SETT meetings. If that was the case, there's a way to go about it where you're just a facilitator of a meeting and you're basically laying out this is how, and the team is agreeing to the action plan, but you don't monitor necessarily. That's why I said don't put us as team members because we're not helping monitor. We are just facilitating for you to help you know what to set up and how to go about it. But you're the ones doing it. They're the ones doing it. So they'll know what they're supposed to collect data on. You're just guiding it. So it's not as involved as your own kids on your caseload, where you actually are actively facilitating that. And the itinerant teacher or one of the IU staff on the team would be the one borrowing the device, not you. okay? You would just set them up with how to go about that, but, it's not, again, it's just you facilitating a meeting. It's not anything beyond that. Yes, you would need to know what to say in the meeting. Yes, you would be helping facilitate that piece of it, but that's where we come in to help you figure that out if you needed help. But again, after the 4 trainings, you should be pretty good with, there's not a ton of things we're recommending. You don't have to weed through 50 things. You might have to weed through 4, depending on what features the student needs. So it's a little less overwhelming once you've gotten all 4 weeks in, okay? So as far as do you have to do it, we don't know. But if you have to do it, it can be done, and it doesn't have to be this daunting task other than the time commitment to gather just background information, which doesn't take very long at all. I literally send a form that says, how do they communicate now? Send me a video, or do you want an observation? You don't even have to say, do you want an observation? You can say, send me a short clip. And if they have to get parental permission, then they do before they send it to you. But it's just a matter of, I find it super helpful to get a little 1-minute clip of a kid communicating the way that they communicate. Then I'm okay, and I kind of have a feel for, where the discussion may go. So, but they know the kid, so they're the ones that are going to speak to how he communicates, and then tool-wise what might work. Or if you don't know and you're sitting in the meeting, and this goes for anybody, if you don't know, then one of your action plan items could be consult with the IU consultants to determine which app to try or which device to try, and then add training and everything else. Okay, you don't have to know all the answers. You just have to use your resources. So if you know the answer, awesome. If you don't know the answer, one of your action plan items is to ask and to find out. Okay? Other questions? Okay, let's go through the forms really quickly. The forms were actually originally, so the guiding questions were written based across all of assistive technology. So school age, and so I will speak a little bit to the preschool version of it. But it's good to know the big picture, so that's the reason we use these guiding questions. However, what I want you to do now is, let's take a look at the identification page. And let me pull up my publisher version so you can see what it looks like, because we may be able to. So it's SETT 01 ID page is the one that you're looking for. All right, so my publisher. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. So this is what it looks like in Publisher. It looks the same, but you can actually tab through the fields and type. So I will upload that one so you guys have access to that, so you can just tab through the fields. You just have to make sure you save it as a PDF to send it, because then you'll get parents going, I can't open it. Well, right, you can't.
Get the email from me that says,
I can't open
it.
Yeah. So that's just one little thing you have to remember, but it's not a big deal. And once you've done it a couple times, it's pretty great. So this is just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if I may be jumping the gun on this, but would there be any way that we could get like samples of like these forms filled out, like kind of like what the task things look like?
Sure, as long as you don't copy it. But what we're going to do today is actually, you're going to fill out on a form, take notes on a form, so that you have some.
Just like for wording,
Yep.
Like I've never done one before, so
Sure.
I don't know exactly like.
Yep, and I'll put those together for next week.
Use over other ones.
Yep, I'll get this to you for next week. Okay. This is strictly demographics. Who's on your team, parents, and why identified as concerns regarding. Why are you here at the table? Well, usually it's expressive communication for your little guys, so you can just write expressive communication. This is page 1, the date of the meeting. The team members go along the bottom, email and position. It's really helpful to have all that listed there. If on the publisher form, so on the regular form, if you highlight and choose underline, you can type and it won't push everything. Okay, so if you highlight a section and just type a name in, it'll replace it and not push it over. So there's ways to mess with the formatting, but this is so much easier, and I will upload it. If you don't have enough room because the team is so big, if you just hit space bar up to this point, you can still fit it in there. You just can't tab through those lines in the middle, but you can still type on them. So I've had teams with like 13 people. So hopefully you only have small teams, but.
For preschooler district contact, do we even need that?
No, it's IU contact, and it's usually supervisor
So that
or
would
you.
be speech manager? Is that,
Supervisor.
so as a speech therapist, like who would it then be the IT or teacher?
Are you in the classroom?
Yes.
So you would need to speak to your classroom teacher and see who their supervisor
Okay,
is.
so
So that's the person.
that's
Okay.
what I was talking
Yeah.
about.
Okay. Other questions about this form? And again, it just goes on the top of the other one. You only fill this out the first for that initial meeting. Okay. All right. So page 2. Let's open that. That is the SETT framework, and that is the meat of the meeting. I'm going to open it from my framework. Okay. So on this one, I did take some of the lines out, so you can just type next to district, address, district. You can just write NCIU. But, you know, one of the things that we do want on the first page is the student's school district, where they live, because that's who we have to talk to when they're transitioning. So, and Tammy, I'm thinking maybe we should redo for preschool, like redo forms and have preschool forms and school age forms. So, yeah, so we'll work on that so that you're not dealing with district, you know what to list.
And it's important that you do the district that they physically live in, not the district that they're attending school.
Right, so we'll be clear on that. So just a little bit of demographics at the top. The complete advice, who's typing up the form? It's you, so put your name there. It's just who's completing it, it doesn't matter. Anything beyond that doesn't mean you're responsible. The only people responsible are the people on the action plan. Okay, so that doesn't mean I'm responsible party. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, so you said for district at the top. First you said NCIU.
So that's NCIU. On the
So, yeah,
ID page, it's parent home district, I think it does say. So that's what we need to know. Yep. Yep. This is just IU over here.
This is just IU.
Yep. Okay. Student, the date of the meeting, and completed by. There's a little bit of redundancy because there's a date of meeting at the bottom too. Sorry about that, but all right. Now we're going to go over the columns because this is the framework that determines what you do in the action plan. So this first one on my back, oh, there it is. So student. So the first column is student, second column is environment, tasks, and tools is this whole right section. What are they using now? What are we going to explore? And then of the explore column, you put an asterisk next to the items that you're actually putting on the action plan. I may pull that out of there because it's annoying. They need a major redo anyway. So most of these should be bullet lists. Don't write narratives in there. Nobody's going to read it. Okay, we want bullet lists or just lists of things. Okay, there's not a lot of space. You can highlight and make the font smaller. Okay, so as you're typing in there, you can highlight and make the font smaller. Okay, so on this, you can either type right on the one that you have and then save blank ones later, or you can save one as just notes. But under student, you're going to write age. Some of the things to write are age, diagnosis if it matters. Sometimes it helps. And this looks different on, for each individual kid. Strengths, needs, motivators. And one of the things in preschool I typically put in this column is how they communicate now. Okay. And I'm a fan of the total communication approach. So speech, pictures, and sign or gesture if you need to, but all. Just, being cautious of not focusing on sign. Unless they live with deaf parents. I'm going to take that back. In a deaf community, sign is fine. But most of us are not living in a deaf community. So, all right. Environments. So, okay, so any questions about the student column? What are they doing? Tell a little bit about the kid. All right, then the next part, we're going to look at environments. It says environment. They're in more than one place. With you, they're in one place, but they're in more than one place. So where are they throughout the day? What might some of the environments be? Home. School. Daycare. Grandma's.
Can you just put community?
You can, except it's a little broad. You can, but it's a little broad. Yeah. So, and Trish, like community meaning like grocery store, Target, all that, restaurants, but it might be good to put stores, restaurants, things like that instead of just community. I'm not saying I never have put community because I have,
Cool.
Good. Yes. And why is that important? We need a backup system for the pool. You do need to consider that. So it should be on here so that you're looking at all environments. All right. And really, it's so a lot of times at the school age level, I'll have them go through their day where they are because they're both in homeroom and the special education room and the specials and the office and everywhere, lunchroom, everywhere in the school. But then where do they go after school? Well, they're home, they're at church, they're at sports, they're at, here, there, and everywhere. We're talking about communicating. You don't stop communicating once you leave school or once you leave grandma's house. You need to communicate however you communicate everywhere you go. So we need to kind of put that in place. For this action plan, do we have to have a plan for every one of those areas? Nope. We're going to pick where to start. Okay? If you're just starting from scratch, we're going to pick where to start. Remember, the action plan that comes from this is only a couple months long. And then you're going to revisit and look at a new action plan, but based on these categories. So if you start in school and at daycare and home, then you can branch out with grandma and restaurants and the pool after that. So you can worry about that later. But we do need to consider all environments. All right, so preschool-wise, especially when we're talking about AAC, the tasks. When we're talking about AAC, I typically put this into communicative functions that they need to do. So SLPs, what are some of your communicative functions? Requesting, commenting, commenting. Did you say asking or answering, Katie? Asking and answering questions. Protesting and rejecting. Gaining attention. How do kids gain attention, little kids? How do they do it at home? Mom, 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 mom. So one of my favorite things to put on there during the meeting, if we have a loaner, is mom. I make her take her picture and put it in there, and then mom, mom, mom. So yeah, so we definitely want gaining attention. If you're just starting out, it's okay just to have a few things there, but overall, we want them to be able to do all of this, right? Eventually, we want them to do all of that. Don't just put requesting, okay? We get stuck there because it's the easiest place to start. Bless you, gosh. If it was me and I had, things that I wanted on my communication system, it would probably be don't like and like, lobster, chocolate, maybe wine, probably have those things on there. So it's requesting things I want and then things I don't want. You want them to be able to say, don't want, I want this, but you also want them to be able to say, I like it and I don't like it. Okay, I like and I don't like. Those are the simplest comments that you can make about most things. You're sitting here with this idea of doing SETT meetings, like or don't like. Don't answer out loud. But you might change your tune in 4 weeks. You might feel better in 4 weeks. So hopefully you'll feel better in 4 weeks. At least you'll be indifferent about it. If given all the time in the world, how do you feel about it? So, but you want to use language functions other than requesting. So yes, requesting, but also what? We're not going to get maybe into describing at the early stages, but at the later stages, as their utterance length is expanding, you do want to put those descriptors in there. Blue truck, red truck, big truck, little truck, things like that. You definitely want some of those words in there. So think about the language functions. At the school age level, this turns into academic tasks. What do they need to do? They still need to do the language functions, but they also need to produce written work and do all that other stuff. So that's why it's task driven, but at the preschool level, it's based on communication, and we want them to be able to do those communicative functions. So, all right. So even if we put it under student, like how they're communicating now, what tools are they using now? Well, how many of you have pictures of things in your classrooms or when you're doing therapy? How many of you use picture symbols or photos? Yeah, so picture symbols would be one of the things to put there. If he's doing the PECS protocol, you would put he has a PECS book or a picture symbol book, or you can call it a communication book. What else? Sometimes if they have an iPad at home, I never use that iPad for communication, by the way, but because they play games and do YouTube and all that stuff. We usually have a dedicated one for communicating about what they do on their other iPad. But if they have an iPad, it's worth documenting what they're using. So, or if they use mom's phone for something or whatever, I just say mom's iPhone for playing this game, because that tells you fine motor-wise where they are. They can play on mom's phone and do certain things. That's a teeny tiny little device, and we want to know size-wise where they are. So list what they're using.
Gestures, pointing.
Yep. Yep. Anything that they're using to communicate. Thank you for that. Signing, if they're using signing. And roughly, if they are using signing, how many signs? 5 or 95? Do they have a lot or a little bit of sign? And is it actual sign close, or is it gross approximations of signs? All right. And then to explore. Bless you. We are going to work on that column when we work on that. Bless you. When we work on the apps and devices. Okay, so we're going to kind of pick how to go about that, because next week is about apps and feature matching. So what features and how to go about that. So don't stress about that column yet. But again, it's a list of things. We're going to borrow an iPad with XYZ app. We're going to put how many pictures on a page if you know that, things like that. So hang on to this document for next week, because as we are planning on mapping out what's going to be on that action plan, you'll need to know what you're going to explore. Okay? So that said, it's usually, so to explore, so this, well, the using now is pretty self-explanatory, but device, layout, features that they need is, and it's better if that actually goes first. And again, we're going to talk about features next week before we talk about the tools, because that way, if you know what features they need, you know what tools to look at, to consider. Okay, because we call it feature matching, but you match up whatever features they need to what device that they'd be trying or using. There's kind of an interesting story about that. Last year, there was a student who got private therapy with the device. The private therapist said, "I'll do the evaluation and I'll write up the report." And we're like, "Woo! All right, you just saved us hours of work." Okay. They had a sales rep come out and demonstrate some of the dedicated devices. Okay, and they settled on a dedicated device, not an iPad, but a dedicated device that was 10 inches and super heavy. How big is 10 inches? It's about the size of a regular iPad in a case. Okay, and this was in a big case with a speaker on the back. The little girl was teeny tiny. So as it turns out, she couldn't carry it. She couldn't carry it, she couldn't manipulate it. So mom had to move the device anytime she was communicating with it, or a teacher had to, or whoever. There's also 2 little kids in the family that mom wouldn't leave the device out because the little kids would play with it. So there's a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old. I'm going. Oh my God. So no wonder mom has to have her hands on it all the time. What was the problem with that feature? The features, or what's the feature that they forgot to look at? Size and portability, right. She's a teeny little thing. She can handle a teeny little device and carry it. Whether it has a shoulder strap or a handle, she could have done it herself. She could have had her own spot for it, away from the little kids. But as it stands, there was a $6,000 device that was ordered that she couldn't access. So it was frustrating because they didn't look at that one super important feature when looking at her environments. Does it need to be portable? It does. And she needs to be able to manage it. Okay? The program was great, but that program is also available on an iPad this big. So it was disappointing that they missed that all-important feature, which is why we have the whole team at the meetings instead of just doing evaluation on the side. So it's kind of really important to look at that what we're going to explore column based on features, and then you pinpoint devices to go with that. If in your meeting you don't know what devices match those features, that's when on your action plan you wouldn't put a device there, you would just say consult with AT about what to try. Okay? And then you would set up a time with us to talk. All right? Okay. So, and then on the action plan, if this column is still here, we're going to try out these features. So I'm starring things because, and again, in preschool, most of the time you're doing all the items that are listed to explore. In school age, sometimes we say, we're going to try these things first. We're going to try typing and listening to text first, and then at a later date, we're going to try this, this, and this. So I only star the 2 things that are going on the action plan. So that's why the column is there, so that you know what to transfer over to the action plan. Then you fill out the date of the meeting and save it. And then you go to the action plan and fill that out. But you can't go ahead and fill out the action plan, or should not even try to, unless you have that framework filled out. Okay? Because you need to know specifically what you're doing. All right, the action plan. Go ahead.
Sorry, did you say in the action plan section of the framework paper that we don't put anything, or there's 3 things that you put?
Asterisks.
Just put 3 asterisks.
Well, yeah, next to the items that you're going to put on the action plan. So it's whatever items in that list that you're going to put on the action plan, just put an asterisk next to. Like this item's going to be on the action plan.
So like in the to explore, like let's say, okay, we have iPad, we have
it's matching that. Right. Okay. All right. So you should have a job for every team member on here, or at least try to. Except your supervisors, they don't need any more work unless they have to actively be involved. But the team members, what are the parents going to do? What's the SLP going to do? What's the teacher going to do? What is everybody's role? The important thing to remember is some of the things the whole team is going to do. One of those main things is modeling for the child. Everybody's going to do that. So you write entire team. By whom? The entire team. Who's going to be trained? The entire team. By when? And then pick a realistic date. So some of the things you cover in this list include borrowing a device, consulting if you need to, and then borrowing a device. Oh, first of all, you fill at the top. Student, IU, your IU contact person, and then members of the team. If we just did a full set and I have page 1 attached to it, I just put the identification page. If this is a follow-up set meeting, I do list the team members there. And it's not an attendance sheet, it's who's on the team. Because sometimes somebody can't be there, but they're on the team. I want all team members there. All right. So then what is to be done by the team? Borrow X device. And you don't even have to say from where, because you have lending sources other than the IU. We're just really fortunate to have a big lending library. We are the only IU that has such a big lending library. We're very lucky. So you can also borrow from Patton in Harrisburg or Piat at Temple University. I never borrow from Piat myself because you have to sign your own personal life away, not the IUs. So it's rare. Parents can borrow from Piat if they want to. Anything. Anyone can borrow from Piat. But Piat asks us to go through our lending sources first before going to them. because they are open to many more people than we are. So we only lend to our people in Montgomery County. They lend to anybody who wants to borrow from them in the state, I believe. So you're going to borrow X device. Who's going to do that? Well, it's whoever's closest. So if you are a contractor, it has to be an IU employee. It does. So if it's the teacher or the SLP, and actually write names in here. Okay, I'm just writing general because, that's the rule. And by when? What's the rule about borrowing? 2 weeks. So put a date. That's 2 weeks from today, which is what? Who knows? Actually look at the calendar and put these dates in. So we have the 21st, so 9/21. If the meeting was today, you're going to try to have it borrowed. So what comes after borrowing the device? Oh, somebody back here said it. Training, right? No, learn how to use it. Training. A lot of times during this, I will pull up a link to a webinar on it if I have a link to a webinar. How can you find the link to a webinar? Google it. I Google, if you know what app you're trying, I'll do like Prolo Quota Go video. You Google that, it takes you to the website. You copy that website and paste it into this. Okay? Everyone has to watch the video by when. Okay? So training, you're going to rate more than training. Watch video on device. Here's the link. Entire team. Within how long? The videos aren't usually that long, so within 2 weeks. Sometimes a week is helpful because everybody's already aware of it. If you're watching a video, then you know what questions to ask. So, but realistically, in 2 weeks. But in 2 weeks, you want to also have things started. So, okay, and we'll give ourselves 1 more week after that for the next part. Trish, would you say?
Setting it up.
Setting it up. So customize the device. Who typically does that? SLP or sometimes a teacher. It's usually the most techie person on the team. And if nobody's techie on the team, Carol and Deb, no, work together. Watch that webinar. I'm not on your team. Remember, I'm not on the form. I could spend my whole life doing that. And then you would never learn. I'm going to teach you to fish there, girlfriend. So via webinar. But customize that device for the child. It doesn't mean we won't give you guidelines. We'll give you guidelines. We'll help. We'll help. We won't do 4. How's that? I will write, so SLP or teacher, techie person, sometimes parents will set up, be part of the setup as well. So if you know what you're doing and they're pretty techie, don't not have them help. They're like, we'll do it. Okay. Yeah. All right, and just have them work with you. Don't let them just go crazy because sometimes they do. But if they're willing, that means they're active participants in the team. This is good. This is a good thing. So, and find out what you think. Don't be controlling in that I'm the only one to add anything. Does that ever happen? Yes. Sometimes you need to reel them in. So every once in a while, you'll have to be the one to say, you have to let me know what you want and I'll put it on. Sometimes parents get a little crazy. But it's rare, and I welcome any parent that's willing to take time to sit down and help create the communication system for their own kid. Because they're yours for a year or 2, but they're theirs for life. So, the more involved they get, the better. So, and it shows that they're really accepting and moving forward with this. So it could be a really good thing. So, on this, so I say always put a date, but if our goal is to get it within 2 weeks, the customization we want to happen within a week after you get it. So you can put within 1 week from receipt of device because you don't know what date that's going to be. It could be in 2 days, and then you could be customized pretty quickly. So, and again, same with training. I'd be more inclined to put the 14th instead of the 21st because then you just sit down and watch it and you're good to go. You're ready to go instead of waiting until the 21st when you're ready to implement. So you're customizing it. Is it going home? starting day one. If the parents are like less than involved, but they're willing to use it, but they don't want to program it or anything, what job could they have? To charge it at night. So you know it's going back and forth, which is a good thing. They're being responsible to charge it, so it's coming in charged, and it's not a hard job to do, and it could kind of get them. And send it to school. Yep. Oh, good. Charge device and send to school daily. To school, they don't go daily, right? Send to school. Parents. And I write throughout the trial.
Could you also write that for the customize the device? Because you will be like adding things as.
You can write and ongoing, but you definitely want to get it started within that first week. There's things that you want to add, such as kids' picture, your picture, like the big things, like right away. But yeah, absolutely, it should be ongoing. What else?
Collect data.
On what?
How to use, where to use.
Yep. So the next part is determine where you're going to use it and how. So, and I'm just going to write determine where to use it and how. That's not an action plan item. You're actually going to, let's put that in parentheses. Because when you get a device, how many people feel awkward when they first get it? Yeah, it's totally awkward, right? So you're not going to use it every day, everywhere, for everything right away. You might use that initial page with the core language in most areas with just a few words, or you may use it in certain situations to start with where you're going to collect data. So snack time, circle time, and people get hung up on not doing circle time all the time, but circle time's pretty helpful. I've always found it to be helpful. It's just not, don't just stay there. Branch out too. But circle time, because it's repetitive, but yet there's some change in it from day to day, so it gives the kids a lot of practice. Snack time because it's motivating, play time because it's motivating. So those times are great times to start first. Try to start in fun activities instead of repetitive activities. My only hesitation about circle is they don't care if today's Monday. You know what I mean? So, but they care about whether they like or don't like something. So even in circle time, rather than say today is Monday, say do you like it or you don't like it? Or we're going to sing Itsy Bitsy Spider. Do you like that song or you don't like it? You know, you can model just those words instead of I want Itsy Bitsy Spider. So it allows them a little bit of commenting and doesn't make your job all that difficult. So you can use a combination of things. It doesn't all have to be on the device, but you determine where and how and what you're going to collect data on. And then the next one is the very most important thing. Super, super important. Does anybody know what word I'm going to say? You have to speak the kid's language, or he won't learn it, okay? So you have to model. It is okay if it feels awkward. It's not okay to not use it because it feels awkward. It will only feel awkward for a short period of time. So the more you use it, the more they'll use it, okay? That said, I know it's awkward. So even if you use it for 2 words, like and don't like for that one lesson, that's great. That's good. Then the next time you'll use like, don't like, and fun, and just add things in. Just keep growing, keep adding. Don't be so data-driven that they have to master something before moving on. They don't. We don't master words. We play with words all the time. Little kids make up words all the time. They're just playing with it. It's okay. So we do want you to collect data. We don't want you to be rigid to the data. And I found this sometimes more in the data-driven classrooms where they're it's the ABA, verbal behavior kind of classrooms where they have to master before they're moving on. Communication doesn't work that way. So you want exposure. You want it to be natural. Don't quiz them on touch this, touch that. Do it like, this is fun, and you're modeling fun, and I like it, and you're doing it too, okay? In natural consequences, natural situations. Once you've modeled, I always say model for the first month or 3 weeks. 3 weeks to a month. You're just modeling. Well, modeling and encouraging them to follow your model, but not necessarily collecting data. Then, after the first month of modeling, 3 weeks or a month, you decide. And you're always going to model new vocabulary throughout the whole use of the device. But after the modeling period, reduce to prompts. Oops. And collect data. There are several ways to collect data. Your team decides how you want to go about it. Personally, I focus on what functions they're using it for and at what level of independence. Okay, so what types of utterances, requests, comments, responses, whatever, and at what level of independence. So requesting almost always is pretty immediate and pretty independent. Commenting, protesting, not well, maybe protesting comes pretty quickly too. But the commenting and just labeling things and stuff like that comes later. So it might be prompted where things are more independent. So personally, that's what I do. So I look at type of utterance and level of independence for that utterance. With the kids that are really early learners and not saying a whole lot with it, you can do a language sample of what they're doing. Meaning, whenever they use it, write down what they say with it, and was it prompted or not prompted. That's another way to do it. Skipping, after we finish this, I'm going to show you a couple trial logs that you can use if you want to use them, or you can just collect data in your own way. But your team should decide at the meeting how and who is collecting data. Almost always I have the school group collecting the data, not the parents.
I know in text, one of their major data points is, does the kid go get the device when they're getting ready to leave the room? Is that something you consider?
Yeah, that would be, is there ownership there? Yes. Are they always prompted, or do they go get it? Do they seek it out? So I'll write what they're saying, level of independence, and other comments about it, and that's where I would put. That's just me. That's how I do it. So yeah, you can actually show, are they getting it, and you're encouraging them to get it. The other thing is, no matter what they're using, have them take it with them no matter where they are. Have it on them at all times. I have a classroom in an elementary school, autism support, where they have either textbooks or iPads with an app, and they all have a shoulder strap, and they all carry it with them from desk to desk and from classroom to classroom, and it's always on them at all times, and it's a beautiful thing. I love to watch it. The teacher and the aides just get it, You have those teams that just get it. It's so nice. So they just take it with them like it's second nature, that they just, it's part of them, which it should be. So I know some teams that will put a sign next to the door that says, do you have your voice? Did you take it with you? So take your talker. So it reminds staff and yourselves and the kids to take it with them. Okay. So after the modeling period, you're going to collect the data. You determine that. And then you're going to review the data at a follow-up meeting. You're also going to tweak the device as needed, but that's, kind of understood. Data. And sometimes I will put to check in with the team, so the team leader, but you guys see each other all the time, right? Like you're actively involved with each other frequently, correct? So you are checking in with each other and you are seeing. But every once in a while I'll put check in with the team, see how things are going, because sometimes you have to tweak it earlier than later. So the final thing you do during the meeting is pick the next meeting date at the bottom. Try to do that during this meeting. Get a date on the calendar. 2 months, 3 months. Remember, our loaners are 2 months, so 2 months is a good period of time to schedule that meeting. But try to put that on the calendar. If you have to change it later, you do, but at least try to have people commit to a time. That way you have a target date to work for. And that's it. So those forms, page 1, 2, 3, filled out, emailed to the whole team, everybody on the team. Okay, that's why I like the digital part, because you don't have to photocopy, you don't have to hand to. If there's parents that don't have email, of course you'll make a copy for them and hand it to them. But if you can, do it digitally. That way you can pull it up in a meeting if you need it. So I'm really going to say we want to see them not handwritten, but on the computer and uploaded.
And part of the reason why you want it digitally is you're going to have to give it to me digitally.
So you have to scan it and give it to Tammy anyway.
Put
so
it into the system digitally when you do a request.
Which you can handwrite and do. So I'm not saying you absolutely can't. It does have to be uploaded digitally, so you may as well have it digitally. and refer back to it. Also, it's kind of nice to then save this as a new, like with the new date, clear out the action plan. You already have all the top filled out, so it's kind of nice to not have to refill out everything all the time. So you would clear all that out, but and put new action plan items in. So at the next meeting, on that next meeting date, all you're going to do is fill out that results column based on what you had here. So you can go through and say, did you borrow it? Yes, borrowed it on this date. Was everybody trained? Everybody but Mom. Mom didn't watch it, so put Mom's training on the next one. Give Mom that job again to watch the video for the next time. Customize a device for the child. Did we do that? Yes. So you're going to just write completed or qualify it. Data-wise, you're going to write your data in there or attach your data sheet to it if you have data sheets for it. And basic recommendations and things like that. It's anecdotal. So, you can just write in. As you're typing in, it'll stretch out. It'll stretch that line out. So you can let it stretch itself out while you're typing, and it'll go to a next page. It's not a big deal. So at that meeting, you fill out the results column. Then you create a new action plan that you fill out items to do, who, and when, and leave that results column blank for the new one. Okay? So that's a quick one. All right, last thing I want to cover quickly is the data sheets. The trialogue that's in here is ancient, but it's, some people still really like it, so I keep it here. But I'm going to show you that one, then I'll show you two others that I have, and you can create your own. So the good thing about this one is, when we just need, do we have a date on this one? This is like ancient. I don't know where it is. The student needs a means to participate audibly, communicate expressively, things like that. Features of this tool, you can fill that out. You don't fill that out. You don't have to because we already filled that out on the framework. But you have a date. You tried it in this activity, and these are the results. Have a date. Tried it in this task. These are the results. So it's kind of nice. Sometimes assistants like it. It's anecdotal. Some people don't like it because it's anecdotal. But it shows that we tried it during this task, and this is what happened. So it's kind of nice in that respect. Some people really like that. I have two others that I created that I have used, and let me find them. Sorry. Okay. Totally have them. Fillable PDFs. Oh, the reason I haven't used PDF forms is I like when you're typing on the first page and it stretches out, even if it goes to another page, it allows you some flexibility as far as moving columns and things. So if you need to widen it, and I know I just jumped around, but if you need to, on the framework page, move something over, I don't know if you guys know this with tables, but if you hover over a line, you get a little mark that allows you to drag it and make it bigger and smaller. See that? So if you need to do that, you can do that. You can also make the font smaller and change things around. So that's kind of why I leave it that way and don't make it a static PDF file. Shoot, where's that? There it is. Okay. So this one is types of utterances that they're saying. So we don't know exactly what the utterance is, but what is the function of it is what I'm looking at on this one. So, and it's tally marks. Okay. So if you had to do, they made a request independently, tally. Okay. It's just an independent. They did it 5 times independently and 2 times prompted. And then responding to questions during circle time, they did modeled and 2 prompted. So it's tally marks. That's kind of how I have it. But it gives you the big picture of language-wise what functions they are using the device for besides requesting. So it's kind of nice. My suggestion would be either to delete the rows that you're not working on right now or highlight what you are working on. So, if you're not working on greeting, hi and bye, because they already wave and they're fine with that, take that out of there or cross it out, just to show that you're not, that's not what you're collecting data on. You decide during the action plan what functions you're working All right, and again, so we have the date up there, then we have another date here, so you could do it by date, you could do it really however you wanted to, by week, by week during circle time, or by week during, art time or whatever. You can really pinpoint how you want to do that, but that's type of utterance. And then the other one, I think I fixed this one, but if I didn't, I will. Yeah, so this is a language sample. What did they say specifically, and was it modeled or prompted? So it's a language sample. Said, I want cracker, please, or like it, and it was model, prompted, independent, okay, and again by date. So I can put those up on the website too if you might want to use those. But again, you can create your own, and it can fit in however you already collect data. So if one of your goals for them is gaining attention, whether it's verbally or using a device, it's still gaining attention. So are they doing it, and are they doing it independently? That can fit right into your data collection as it is already. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel if you don't want to, if you can make it fit in with what you've got. But questions? This sheet doesn't necessarily go along with anything. It's just guiding the discussion on which device is best. Once you decide what device is best, the features of that device go in the IEP, not the device. You don't say he has an iPad with Pro Code to Go. You say he's using A, and we'll give you the feature list next week or throughout the training to say he has a portable tablet-based device with a strap that does this, 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 and this. Occasionally in present levels, in parentheses, I will qualify and say currently a blah, 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 but anything matching these features will be appropriate, okay? Because all that blah, blah, blah means nothing to a receiving teacher. So what does that mean? I qualify it, but in parentheses, and say, but anything that matches the features is appropriate, because they could have an Android tablet in their receiving school district that runs the same app or something similar, and that's okay, as long as it has the same features that the kid needs.
You mentioned which symbol system you use, because I know there's like board maker, symbol sticks, and all of that, and I know that can throw kids off.
It can. I haven't seen it throw them off that much.
Okay.
It's rare. A lot of times we would get evaluations from private parties that recommend they must have this device with PCS symbols because, they're ingrained in PCS symbols. Well, no, they're not. This is their first symbol set. If they were, it was because this person would always recommend this because only a dedicated device had it, not the iPad at the time. And because board maker was the most common thing that was being used, so those are PCS symbols, so he always insisted that they have a device with PCS symbols. When that kid did perfectly well with symbol sticks, great with symbol sticks. So I haven't seen, as long as you're modeling, I haven't seen any kids really balk at, with the exception of some kids with autism. You know how like with the PCS symbols, the want is just hands, and it's like cut off at the wrist? Sometimes freaks kids out. Kids with autism, because why are they just hands? Or why is there just a head with no face? So you have to be a little sensitive about that, but even that's pretty rare. But I heard one or two kids go, no hands or no face or something, But I haven't experienced it when you're modeling. If you're modeling, it's kind of like the alphabet too. You're modeling. This is an A, this is an A, this is an A, but it doesn't look like anything to them until they know what an A looks like. So you're really showing them the symbol of what this means. So, but yeah, we are going to talk about symbol sets next week too with the apps. So it's one of the features that we do look at. But it's rare that I choose one over the other just for because of the symbol set. Unless there's, bliss symbols are so abstract. There's some that are totally abstract that I'd be less likely to choose, but like symbol sticks and PCS are pretty close together, except for verbs sometimes, things like that. So, and it is worth a discussion though, as the features you're considering for a child. So, and you could even do little tests. One of your action plan items could be, kind of assessing where the kid identifies with certain words. You could do a little test like, get the apple, get this. You could do a little test with it before you decide on a symbol set or an app. So, if you wanted to. But questions? Any other questions?
Well, will you be touching on how to incorporate listening into the IEP meetings during your training?
Yeah. So once you because once you decide what device is appropriate, we need to know what to write in the IEP and how to go about that. And sometimes follow-up SETT meetings take place during an IEP meeting because they are so short. You're just basically updating the data and making a new action plan. So sometimes they're held at the same time. If sometimes it's hard to get your teams together, so sometimes it's tagged on to an IEP meeting. Not always, and not the first set, because that takes a little bit longer. But yeah, so we'll kind of show you where it goes in the IEP and how it goes in. But when is assistive technology considered for kids? Do you know? When is it a special consideration? Always on the IEP. Every IEP meeting. It's one of the special questions that you're asked. Do they have a behavior problem? Do they have a communication problem? Do they need assistive technology? It's on there. So you do need to consider it for every kid. Does that mean you have to have a set for every kid? Nope. No. But it is a special consideration for every child. So it does need to be a point of discussion, or it should be. Don't just gloss over it, especially with those low verbal kids. Verbal is functionally verbal, meaning you're able to say or you're able to understand. If you're not speaking at that level, but you're understanding at that level, you need another way to augment that. You'll have parents that will say it'll stop him from talking if it talks for him. Okay? And I get where they're coming from. Why would they talk if they have something talking for them? But research has been done. Janice Light at Penn State compiled a bunch of research, and it showed that 89% of the kids spoke verbally more with augmentative communication than without it. 11% spoke the same amount, and 0% spoke less. So that's really telling. I think that's very telling. So I can get you that research study if you want it. Just email me and ask for it. But 89% speaking more verbally along with augmentative communication is huge. So that's what we want. We want their language to grow. We want to focus on their speech. We are focusing on their speech. This is a way for them to model for themselves. It's not just you modeling for them, but once they're using it and expanding their utterance length, they're seeing and hearing it and using it. So it's kind of really exciting that they are expanding their utterance length and using those descriptors and using, getting their adjectives in there and getting their protests in there and using all those language functions that typical kids have access to that maybe our low verbal kids and those nonverbal kids can not do unless they have augmentative communication. So, and then that speech tends to come along nicely. My own personal theory about that, especially with kids with apraxia, is that it takes the pressure off of what they're not able to say verbally so that what they are able to say flows a lot better. And you tend to see the growth. So it's my own personal opinion on that, but I've seen it, really expand kids' verbal language. So, and if they start talking up a blue streak, that's great. I would not stop the use of that augmentative system until they are age appropriate. Keep that in there. Even if they're talking in short phrases during snack, but they're not commenting during stories, you definitely want to keep using it. That's just where you tweak your action plan to say, okay, now in stories we want to expand our utterance length to, a descriptor or whatever. So, okay?
Sorry, one more. For the families that have the device, you've gone through, they have the device, and they want nothing to do with it. After they start and they stop. They're like, yeah, it's not for us. Will we have a discussion at some point about how to end this process or where to go?
So it is part of the discussion. I've usually been able to convince those parents to at least keep it at school so we can use it as a therapy tool. So you can continue to grow their language.
These kids aren't always at school.
It's part of the discussion. I mean, it happens. It's sad when it happens, but it has happened before. They can make that choice, but I would definitely personally implore upon them to continue to expand the language. But if it's every once in a while it's a losing battle, and you have to just and you still keep using visuals and everything in your therapy sessions. Absolutely, you don't stop using
but as far as
tools.
The administrative side of things, is there
parent,
paperwork
in your results column, parent requested. Yeah. Yes, but the team still recommends. Yeah. Document.
Your documenting, and then we upload that so that we have that documentation and make sure that goes in the file.
Okay. So you've documented that your recommendation is different.
We've tried, but that's what the parent says under results.
And Sherry, you would then, so in your results you're going to put that, but also in your IEP you're going to say he went through the SETT process, he did a trial on, he used the device for parents requested to stop the use of the device when his speech developed. School team still feels or therapist still feels it's appropriate. Just document that so it's there. Every once in a while you have that, but remember, our long-term goal is to make them independent communicators and not just on a basic level. We want them to be we want them to be verbal and communicating well. If they don't develop those verbal skills, they should still develop their language skills to the best of their ability. So they should be able to generate language, and you guys are the first step in that. But if you think about regular speech and language development, it happens young, like even before you guys get them. So your job is to kind of help them catch up. And sometimes that does happen. And it happens sometimes through assistive technology. So, you're major changers here, and I think it could be a really great thing. So, all right. So we have 3 more weeks. Don't stress about it. We'll keep answering your questions and giving you the resources that you need, so you are confident in moving forward with it all. This is just step 1, and it's just facilitating a meeting. The rest of the trainings you're going to start learning. What to look for specific tool-wise and how to implement it, like how to actually do the therapy or do those lessons with the technology. Some of you are already doing it really well. So many of you are already doing it really well. So it's just a matter of if you're not feeling comfortable, we want you to become comfortable with it and really expand these kids' language because you can do it. It's just a matter we want their expressive expectations to be along with the receptive. Some kids can follow 3-step directions but can barely say a word. Whether it's through augmentative communication or verbally. So we want to give them everything we can to get them expressing themselves. So, any other questions? Thanks, you guys. You were great.
I have on the calendar the handouts for the open houses.
The dates for open house. So
there's a flyer just for early intervention. They're just dates for all of you.
And we will actually work on the website to put a preschool section of it, so you have your preschool forms and your, that really apply. No, it won't say district, it'll say